welcome back to another episode of the OT for Life podcast. I am so excited and so thankful to have you guys be with us today and to hear another fantastic episode on the show. I have Ijeoma, and she is an occupational therapy assistant student at Erie Community College, and she shares her journey through the OTA program and her goals for the future. And the other really cool thing about her is that she's a member of the AOTA Emerging Leaders Development Program. And so we spend a lot of time today discussing leadership and how to lead from where you are, and really just highlighting that anybody can be a leader within the field of occupational therapy. If you guys are really enjoying this show and want to find other occupational therapy podcasts, I want to point you to a few websites that showcase other podcasts that are either done by an OT or are about occupational therapy. And so the first one that you guys should check out is otpodcast.com. And that was put together by Brock Cook over at the Occupied Podcast. And then the other one that I wanted to let you guys in on is if you go to the OT Hub website, they have a podcast portal over there. If you like what you're hearing and you want more OT podcasts, go check out those two websites. And I hope you guys enjoy this episode. If you're interested in occupational therapy, this is the place for you. This show aims to explore our profession by sharing who we are and what we do. Because for us, occupational therapy is more than just a job. Hi, I'm Sarah. Welcome to OT for Life.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
So how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Did you have class yesterday?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
I did. That was my last class. Actually, it was just a practical, and that's it.
This is actually really exciting because I had to go back and look at all my episodes so far, but you are the first COTA student that I've brought on.
Oh, wow.
I know.
This is exciting.
Right? We're breaking ground here. And yes. I've had a COTA on, and she's been practicing for a couple years, but then I was going back and I was like, no, I haven't had a COTA student, and I've had OTR students on before. So this is super exciting. And you are currently a student at Erie Community College.
Yes.
And you just finished all of your schoolwork. Is that right?
Yes. So we have, in January, we start the level 2 Fieldwork, and we have one class that meets 5 times a semester. It's a professional issues class. But all of the core coursework, I just finished it.
Wow. And where's your head at right now?
It's surreal because I've been on this journey for so long. At my school, we have a 2-year track and a 3-year track, which the 3 year is part-time. And I started off in the 2-year, but after the first year, I made a decision to go down to the part-time. So it's I took half the course load over 2 more years. And it was still I commend everybody else that did the 2-year track. A few of my friends also did the 3-year, and it was we could not imagine. It's so much work. And I don't think a lot of people know how intense a COTA program is, because mostly all COTA programs are at community colleges, but it's really, really intense. It's a lot of material in a short amount of time.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of a similar consensus that I get from other students. That it's just here, let's throw everything that we have at you guys, and you just try to absorb as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, but I'm glad to not have to go sit in a classroom every day.
Yeah, and you get to embark on your fieldwork. I should say your level 2 fieldworks, because you've already had some exposure, right, with level 1s and whatnot?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're about to embark on your level 2 fieldworks, which is so exciting.
Yes, it's exciting. I'm supposed to be I'm scheduled to go to a home health agency. I don't know if BNA is a world or nationwide thing, Visiting Nurses Association. I don't know if you have that, or is that just here?
I am not familiar with it, but that doesn't mean that we don't have it. Because I'm in pediatrics, I might just not be exposed to it.
I don't know. Initially, I thought it was going to be a phys home health, but it's actually my OTR that I'm going to be with is doing EI.
Oh.
So I'll be with EI, and I think she said she has one 11-year-old. So I'm excited for that. I did have my one of my level ones was at an early childhood center for children with special needs. And so I do have a little bit of exposure to EI, but this I was expecting to work with adults, but I'm excited for the experience to work with children, especially early intervention, because if I have to work with kids, I would prefer the babies.
And maybe you could share a little bit, because I know we had talked previously a couple of weeks ago, and you mentioned that you kind of had a goal of where you potentially want to see yourself once you start practicing.
So I applied to a school to get my master's. I haven't heard back yet. I actually emailed them a few weeks ago, and they said they don't review any applications until spring semester. So I have a while to wait. It's just going to be nerve-wracking waiting to hear back. But I do want to go on to get my master's, become an OTR, and I would love to work in the NICU. So even though I was like apprehensive about working in early intervention now, I think it'll be good to get the experience because of the goals that I have for the future. But in my head, I always planned on like, right now, I don't want to get into that. And then after I get my master's, that's when I wanted to start experiencing it, because I don't feel like, not that I don't feel prepared, but it's just like I need to build my confidence a little bit more.
I feel like at least a lot of students that come my way, because I am a fieldwork educator myself, and I think a lot of them, when they first hear that they're placed with me, they're like, oh, early intervention, I don't know how I feel about this. I'm nervous about working with babies, and I don't know how to handle them. And I think once you get that experience and you get that exposure, it's not all that scary anymore. It's just more, if you've never been exposed to it, it's kind of unknown.
Yeah. And it's different learning about it in school and then actually like getting the experience. So I do need the hands-on experience, but it's just coming sooner rather than later.
No, I think that's really cool, because I feel like a lot of times students don't get to see EI. And like if they are in pediatrics, it's more either school-based or maybe outpatient in a clinic or even in the hospital. But at least in my experience, a lot of students don't get that exposure. And so I'm super pumped. I'm excited that you're going to get to see that, because it's such a unique area of practice, and and that's why I am trying to take as many students as I can, because I want to expose people and expose future practitioners to it, to just be like, hey, this is a really cool practice area. You guys are going to have fun. You should think about it later on.
I think I'm going to have fun. My fieldwork educator seems super nice and excited, so I'm looking forward to the experience. And then my next one, we just submitted like where we would like to go. Like we ranked the available options, and hopefully I can get one in mental health. If not, I'll just have to take what I can get, but I'll let you know when that time comes where I'll be.
That's cool. Most people that I talk to are like, nah, I don't want to do mental health.
Yeah, I just want the experience. Like I ran like a couple of semesters ago, I ran a group at the Buffalo Psychiatric Center. And before that, I had never like thought about mental health practice. But it was actually really interesting. We had to do it for our psychosocial practice class, and it was really interesting. And I do, like in my personal life, I really do advocate for mental health, and like that's a passion of mine. But I never thought about working in mental health as an OT practitioner. But now it's really becoming more interesting to me. I know a lot of people do shy away from it because it's not like the most well-paying area, but I do want that experience.
Do you think it's and this is like pure curiosity here, but do you think it is from a monetary standpoint? Or do you think, I guess in my lens, I've always felt like because there's not a lot of OTs that are in mental health in the States, and so there's not a lot of guidance, not a lot of mentorship, and like you kind of have to go in and pave your own way. Do you feel that?
That could be it too, because I don't remember the exact stats, but when I had went to the Emerging Leaders Development Program, one of the guys that was a part of the cohort, he works in mental health, and he gave me the stats. It was like some super low number, but he was like only a certain percent of OTs go into mental health. And it was like super low. And I don't know, is it because of the monetary reasons? Is it because they're scared, like the population that you work with, that there's a lot of stigma surrounding that, and it's a lot of stress and a lot of encounters that you may have that's different than in a physical disability setting or pediatrics? I don't know, but I'm interested to see. OT definitely plays a huge role. I wish there were more. OT practitioners in that field.
Especially since, like, I mean, that's kind of where we started, at least a big portion of
Yeah.
where the profession started. And so it's unfortunate to hear that. But I'm also hearing more and more, like, students that are going in that maybe there aren't OTs in those settings yet, but they are having wonderful experiences within the mental health setting. And maybe they like weren't considering it, kind of what you said, they weren't considering it before. And then they go in and they have a level 1 or a level 2 experience in it. And it kind of reshapes their thoughts and their perspective about it.
That's the one good thing about OT is like so many different settings. Like even if you don't immediately want to work in one setting, like you can work in this setting and then switch. Or like I know someone who recently graduated from my program. She has like 4 jobs, like 1 full-time and like a part-time and a couple per diems. But it's like so many different settings that you can work in. So I think everyone should just try to get a little experience in as many settings as they can. I know that's what a part of fieldwork is, to expose you to a lot of different settings, but even in your career.
Yes, I fully agree with that. I think it's so important, especially as like a volunteer or a student and early on in your profession, to really get that exposure to as much as you can. I mean, there are new and emerging areas of practice that are like popping up all the time. So of course you can't see it all, but really just trying to get as much exposure to OT across so many different practice areas, I think is really important.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, how did you, or when, or both, did you first hear about occupational therapy?
So I started in college in, I don't even want to say it, but 2009 is when I graduated from high school and I went to college. I started as a freshman in college as a pharmacy major. After organic chemistry, too, that was like not going to happen anymore. So I was like, I knew I wanted to stay in the health field, but I didn't know like what exactly I wanted to do. So I was like looking up, different allied health professions, and I came across occupational therapy. And I don't know if I had heard of it before. Like, I don't think so. I probably heard of physical therapy, but I looked into it more and I was like, this seems interesting. So I was already like working towards, because I had switched from pharmacy, I was working towards like a more general, like my degree is in health and human services. But at the time, before I had actually completed my degree, the school that I was at also had an occupational therapy program, but their program is combined. It's a bachelor's and a master's program combined. So I'm like, I don't know, should I do this? Like, it's going to take longer. It's going to be more money. Like, because at this point, I'm almost done, basically done with my degree. I just didn't confer it yet. But I had initially I'm like, I'm going to just finish up and then go to a school just for my master's. But I ended up applying to a school and I got waitlisted. So my friend who was also in the OT program at that school was like, you should apply. So I had applied and then I got in and then I started, and after gross anatomy, it just like, I don't know, I just ended up having to, step back and like think about like, is this really what I'm going to do? So I was like, no, I'm just going to finish up my degree. But I'm like, I still want to be an occupational therapist. So in the meantime, I'm waiting and waiting. Like more time has passed. I was like, what can be a stepping stone for me to get into another program? Just not a bachelor's and master's combined, just a master's program. So I ended up searching and I took intro to OT at the school that I was at. And I don't remember hearing about occupational therapy assistants, or if I did, it just didn't stick with me. I didn't even know that was a thing. So I looked and I saw like ECC has a OTA program, like occupational therapy program. And I looked into it and I was like, maybe this is a good like stepping stone. Like I can ramp up my GPA, get the connections, get experience into the field, and then later on go back. So I had applied, I got in, and I started the program, and the rest is history. But now that I think about it, like I'm glad that I did it this way. Like I want to go on and get my master's, but I'm glad that I'll have the experience. I think it'll help me do better in graduate school. And then also being able to work in the field while I'm in school is something that I want to do, because I've always worked during school because
it's important.
Yeah.
I think that's cool because I mean, a lot of students will work during school, but a lot of times it's not directly OT. It might be being a waiter or a waitress or working at a yoga studio or like something like that.
Like right now, I work in a group home, and I've been working in a group home for a few years. And the programs that I've been applying to are hybrid programs. So it's like mostly online, and then like a couple times a month you go on the weekends to have your classes. So that's what I'm trying to do because it'll be more convenient and I'll be able to work. But if I went to a traditional program where classes are, during the day, 8 to 4 or whatever, I wouldn't be able to, those are like primetime therapy hours. So I wouldn't be able to work as a COTA and go to OT school. So I'm glad I'm doing it this way. Hopefully I do get into a program. If not, I'm just going to reapply and keep trying.
Yeah, I'm so glad you actually said that because I was talking to some other students the other day, and I think that like if you don't get in, I think that's oftentimes overlooked, and a lot of people think like it's a negative reflection or it's bad or whatever. And I've heard it from OT students, I've heard it from PT students, like many times people will apply and they won't necessarily get in on the first, second, or third try. And it doesn't mean that you can't be an OT or a PT.
Yeah, that's what I've learned so far. Due to my journey, like everything that has happened, like one, I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason. And then I also believe like if it's meant to happen, it's going to happen. It may not happen on your timeline, but it's going to happen. Like when I was at the ELDP training, Amy Lamb had said to us, like just in conversation, she says she never takes no for an answer. And no, it just means not right now. So if somebody says no, it just means not right now. There's always something that can be done to reach your goal. Just because you don't get it immediately doesn't mean, like a delay doesn't mean it's denied. So that's what I'm trying to live by.
Right? Yeah, I do. I think that's so important. And I love that you already have that mindset that it's like, hey, I want to do this. And if it doesn't happen right away, I'll get there. It just means maybe something else needs to happen before I get there. And
yeah, exactly.
It's such a good attitude to have.
Yeah, because being in the program that I'm in now, like never in a million years did I think that I would go to a community college and get an associate's degree. Initially, I thought I felt like I was going backwards because I already had a bachelor's degree. It's like I'm coming for an associate's, but this program has afforded me so many opportunities. Like I've had so many connections. Being a part of the emerging leaders would have never happened. Like I met great friends. I had a great education. So like I'm really glad that happened, even though in the beginning, I did feel like I was taking a step backwards, and I felt like, oh, I should be in a master's program by now. Like, I used to get so caught up in, like, because I'm 27, so a lot of my friends are already established in their career. They already have their master's degrees, starting families, getting married, and I don't have any of that. But I'm trying to learn to, like, not compare myself to other people, just on the first day of class, I think it was the first day of class or orientation, like our professor, who's also our fieldwork educator, had gave us these rocks that she painted on that says, trust the process. And that has been my like mantra throughout the whole program. You just have to trust the process. Everything in the end, it's going to be okay.
Thank you so much for saying that. It's yes.
Well, Deb, that's Deb.
Yeah. I had a feeling that's who you were talking about.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to tell her about, now I know about the rocks and I love that idea. But there were a few things that you said there that I want to come back to. And the first one is that you felt like you were going backwards. And I can definitely understand like where your mindset was at that point. Because like you had a bachelor's and now all of a sudden you were going back to a community college and working on an associate's. And in the grand scheme, people are going to be like, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah.
But if it affords you these opportunities and almost it's like a building block to get ultimately where you want to be. And I feel like it's going to make you an even more well-rounded practitioner once you get to the master's level and you get to becoming an OTR, that you can't look at it that way. And I feel like there are going to be people listening to that right now that probably have the same feelings. And I think it's so good for them to hear that. Like, it's okay. You can go back to go forward. And we all have to do that sometimes.
Yeah.
That's so cool. That's awesome. What would you say excites you most about the profession of occupational therapy?
The thing that excites me the most about occupational therapy is the versatility. You can work with everyone across the lifespan from birth to death. There's so many different settings. There's the medical model, but then there's also the psychosocial, and just it being so holistic and considering the whole person, mind, body, and spirit, I think that it can appeal to a lot of different people, a lot of different personality types. There's something for everyone where it may not be that way in a lot of other professions, especially healthcare professions. I think we have one of the most like well-rounded professions, and it's just so obviously I think a lot of people come into OT or any healthcare profession with the goal of helping people, but it's so much more than that. But also at the end of the day, it's so client and patient centered that it really is the essence of helping people, just helping people be able to do the job of living, whatever they want to do in their daily life. OT has a role in helping them get to that point.
That was amazing. And I feel like you can't get bored as an OT.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Like, even if you burn out, like, there's always somewhere else you can go.
Exactly. And still have the same impact, the same meaning, the same purpose, all of our core values. So I know that it's been 3 years, right? You've been in the program for 3 years now.
Yeah, I can't believe it.
So crazy. I've been out of school for almost 10 years now. And that is nuts. Because I remember being like in your shoes where I'm like, oh my gosh, I just finished. Okay, what's going to happen now? But I want you to reflect for a second and think back about what potentially the most memorable moment that you've had as a student so far.
I think the most memorable moment was just recently I was accepted into the AOTA Emerging Leaders Development Program. I went to the Institute in October, and it lasts a year, so year-long program. In October, we did a training, but the rest of that is like virtual. You know, we have like phone calls, web chats, and like email communication with their mentors, and then we're going to meet up at conference. But the on-site training for 2 days, well, it's really 3 days. It was the most just impactful, like mind-blowing experience that I have ever experienced. Not just in like my academic life, personal life. I don't want to I feel like it's the best thing that ever happened to me. It's extreme, but when I left, that's really how I felt. Like, wow, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. It was just good energy. Like, the networking was good. I learned so much. And I feel like the people in my cohort and remain in contact and just have that bond. Like, I wish everybody could experience it. Obviously, they can't, but the people who can, or should at least, I encourage everybody who's eligible to apply, because you never know. Like, I didn't know that I was going to get in. I wanted to, but like, I didn't know, and I did. So, and it can happen to anyone if you apply.
How did you find out about it?
So I guess AOTA had sent out an invitation or a letter to like the program directors for them to disperse the information to like students and recent grads. And my program director had sent it to me. Like, I think you would be a really good fit for this. But in her mind, she thought that I was going to apply for it after I graduated, because it's for students in their last year of their program and then within their first 5 years of practice. So I think she thought that I was going to apply for it next year. But I'm like, no, I want to do this now. So I was like, I'm going to fill out the application and send you all of the materials. And she was like, wait, I thought you were going to do it next year. And I'm like, no, it says you can do it now. So I really want to do it now. And she's like, okay, I think you can do it. She wrote up my recommendation. She filled out the program director form. I applied, and I sent the applications, I think, opened up from May 1st to the end of May. So that's when I submitted it. And then we were supposed to hear back in June, and I didn't hear anything. So I'm like getting nervous, but I'm thinking like I should either hear either I got in or I didn't. So like around July, I had messaged them like, I was just wondering to check up on my application status. And they're like, oh, we're still reviewing. You should hear something in a few days. And like literally like 2 days later, I got the acceptance email. So I was so excited. It was in Washington, D.C., because the AOTA headquarters is in Bethesda, Maryland, which is pretty close to D.C. But we also, on the first day, we went to Hilda, which I don't know if you know what that is.
I know what Hilda is, but maybe for our listeners that might not know, you could explain what that looked like.
So for Hilda, it's one day every year where occupational therapy practitioners and students from like all over the country go to Capitol Hill in DC, and they pretty much lobby for certain policies that they're trying to get passed into law. So we went, and everyone was divided by either their state for the Senate, or like their smaller group for the House of Representatives. So you just go and advocate and lobby. And it was really a good experience. I don't know if, like, I know they do Hill Day every year, but I don't know if Hill Day always lines up with the emerging leaders. It was a great experience. Initially, I was nervous because I'm like, am I going to talk to a senator? Like, I'm not really into politics. Like, I don't know what to do. So for the New York one, because it was so many constituents, I felt like it was a little overwhelming because it's like probably 30, if not more of us packed into one room with the staffer trying to talk about the issues that we are there to talk about. And, you know, they seem interested and they're taking notes and stuff, but I felt like at the House of Representatives meeting, when it was just me and someone else, it was more impactful because we could really have an intimate one-on-one conversation. I felt like they were more present just because you're not being bombarded with 30 people, but it was still a good experience. And then the next day we met up at AOTA headquarters. So there was just like the orientation. We talked about what is leadership. Pretty much the theme or philosophy for the Emerging Leaders Program is servant leadership. So we talked about what servant leadership is and the philosophy about that. And then like how to become a leader. We like identified our core values through like this one exercise and just talking about what we want to do. We developed like personal mission statements for ourselves and goals that we want to do in the program. After you complete Emerging Leaders, you're kind of expected to really be involved in AOTA and like assume a leadership position. But now they're more so focused on your own personal leadership journey. How can you lead from where you are? Like that's the biggest theme, leading from where you are. So you don't have to necessarily have an official title to be a leader. You don't have to be like elected to a position or be on a board to be a leader. You lead in your everyday life, like whether it's advocating for your patients or just treating patients, like you're a leader. You can be a leader in any phase without having the title.
I definitely want to unpack that a little bit more because that is so important. And I always try to, especially at like AOTA and at my like local state association conferences, I always go to a lot of the leadership courses. And usually they always start out, the presenter will ask, who here in this room thinks that they're a leader? And
like nobody raises their hands probably.
No, not really. Maybe like I want to say half, maybe not even that. Maybe like a third of the people in the room raise their hand. And then it's like, okay, well, why do you think that you're a leader? And most of those people are like, oh, well, I manage a team, or I'm a director of rehab, or kind of these typical leadership positions that everyone thinks, yes, you are a leader because you are the head of a team or you are leading a group of people. And every time, like now it's almost funny because I've been to so many that I'm like, I know what's going on here. Every time it always gets boiled down to, we are all leaders within the profession, even students, even people that are not even students yet, just volunteers, anybody that is interested in the field of occupational therapy. We are all leaders regardless of where we are and what our title is and what we're doing. Because if you're just advocating for what OT is, that's being a leader. If you are helping a patient or a client, that's being a leader. And it's almost like reframing how people perceive leadership. I love the fact that you said like being a leader where you are, because I think if we can get more people to understand that you don't have to be in a leadership role, like a traditional role in order to be a leader, I think that will just have an immense change in perception and perspective for our profession.
Yeah, I think so too.
And I think it's like, just like reflecting back to your first day of the Institute and having it be Hill Day. Like, I've actually never gone. I don't know if I should admit that, but I haven't gone. But I've seen people post pictures that have gone and people talk about it all the time. And having that be your kind of initial kickoff into the Emerging Leaders Program, I can't even imagine the influence that had. And then it carried over through that week. And now, like, moving forward, because you've gone through something like that.
At first, I was kind of intimidated. Like, this is a lot the first day. But it ended up being a really great experience. Like, I want to try to go back next year. And our state has like a Hill Day. I missed it this year, but in future years, I want to go do that too and lobby on the state level. And anybody can participate in it. Like, actually, a lot of the people that were there were actually students. So a lot of people think like, oh, they have to wait until they're establishing their career to get involved. But there were a lot of students there. And a lot of, yes, it was a lot of OT practitioners too, but I think the majority was students because a lot of schools came in groups. So it'd be like schools had brought like 20 to 30 students.
That's awesome.
I was the only person there from my school. There was one other girl who was from the Buffalo area. She actually went to school in Pennsylvania, but because she lives in the Buffalo area, she was considered to be part of the Buffalo/New York constituency. So it was just us two locally. So I think a lot of people, I don't know if they don't get involved because of time constraints. It is expensive. Like, I can understand why you haven't been yet because California to DC is not like a simple trip, but at least once in their lives, I think everyone should try to get out to it if they can because it's an amazing experience.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've never really like considered going, not because I don't want to, just like, I guess maybe it just hasn't really been on my radar of like, oh, that's something I should do. But I'm so big on going to conferences and promoting the profession. And yeah, I think that might be something I have to add to my calendar and try to make it to.
Do you know if your state has something like that, like at the state capitol?
I'm sure they do, but I actually didn't realize that they had that. So you're changing my perception here.
Yeah, so maybe look into that before you come all the way to DC. Maybe Sacramento will be easier for you.
Well, actually, and my husband is from the Maryland area, so
oh, okay.
Yeah, we could easily tie it in and make it work. So it's not too far off the radar, and I love traveling, so really the distance doesn't do it for me. I guess it hasn't been anything that I've planned for yet, but I'm inspired. I think that would be really cool to try to do one of these years.
Yeah, I think so too.
And also, I don't think that we pointed out, but you are the only student that's a part of the Emerging Leaders Development Program and the only COTA as well?
Yes. So when we first applied, I think some people were students and then they graduated by the time it started. So in like the listing where the names are published, some names do say OTS for OT student, but like once we actually started, everyone was an OT practitioner. Besides myself, I was the only student and the only one representing for the OTAs. Everyone else were already OTRs.
And I think that just kind of goes back to like being a leader where you are, because you are coming in and you are filling some big shoes to represent students and to represent all the COTAs as well. So that is awesome.
Yeah, at first I was nervous and intimidated. I'm like, wow, I'm the only one representing the OTAs. And then when I found out I was the only student, I was doubly like, wow, like, but they were so like encouraging and accepting and welcoming. Like, it was just such a great experience. Amy Lamb had said like she doesn't like the word just, so don't say, oh, I'm just a student or I'm just a COTA. Like, she says that like kind of, I don't know, devalues, or it's like taking away from yourself. Like, it's not that you're just anything, because that's like minimizing what you are. When I went into it, I'm like, oh, I'm just a COTA student, like, and everybody else. Not to say that they were above me, but it was just, like, do you understand what I'm saying?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I was nervous and intimidated by the fact that I'm a student and I'm an assistant, where these people, it's not even about they're more educated, maybe more experienced. And I thought like maybe they won't be able to relate, but it was a wonderful experience. Like, they were so encouraging. After the first day, like, we went out to dinner at like a local restaurant. So we like all walked there together. And then like we had like 3 or 4 tables. And at each table, it was like a good mix of participants from ELDP, but also the AOTA board. So like I was sitting at the table with the president-elect, the vice president, and like the past president. And we were like actually having good conversation, laughing. It was like such a great experience. I would have never thought that I'd be eating dinner with AOTA board members.
Yeah, I think it's almost like that imposter syndrome where you just feel like you're not up to the level of everybody else.
Yeah.
Or it's more just like the limitations you put on yourself rather than anybody else saying that to you. It's just like, oh, well, I'm only this and all these other people are, you think better, even though they're like, they're not necessarily that. What a cool experience. And that, that's really one of the main reasons that I was so inspired to bring you on the show, because I want to highlight that even as a student, that you can get involved in these different programs and these different organizations and be a leader and contribute and give back. And regardless of if you are an OTR, if you're a COTA, if you're a student, if you're a clinician, if you're retired, if like wherever you are, you can continue to contribute and be a leader.
Yes, for sure.
Because I know we've been talking a lot about the Emerging Leaders Development Program, and if there is anybody out there that is interested in it, we'll make sure to link to everything in the show notes so people can find out more information. But if they end up going to the AOTA conference, usually every year they have a presentation on it, and I went a couple years ago, so I don't know if it's changed at all, but I think they had a couple people that were part of the program, and then they also had some people that had already completed it and just came in and they talked about the application process and they talked about what it looked like, and they just gave you a lot more information about it. And so I would highly suggest, if anybody is interested in that and is going to conference, look for if there is a presentation on it, because I remember when I went to it, I was like, yeah, I want to do this. I was so gung-ho, and that was probably like, I don't know, maybe the first like 10 minutes of the presentation, and I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to sign up. Like, I was ready to hit go. And then, of course, they're like, it's only for people that have been practicing under 5 years. And I had literally just hit like 6 at that point. And I was like, oh no. So I wanted to just mention that is an option that you can attend at conference, and make sure that you are within what you said, your last year of being a student and up to 5 years of practice.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited to see. They haven't told us about it yet, so I'm pretty sure they're probably still going to do like the info session, and maybe they'll ask us to participate later. I know we do have our own like ELDP meeting that we're all going to be meeting together, but I don't know about the info session, but I'm interested to see. I'd be interested in talking to other students or anybody interested in it too.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I have another question for you. What would you say, or do you have any advice, or what would you say to another student that is looking to become a leader or looking to get involved in the Emerging Leaders Program? What piece of advice do you have for them?
2 pieces of advice. So the first is definitely get involved, because you have to submit your resume, and I think, and also a personal essay, and they do look to see if you have a history of leadership. So even before I came to ECC, at my previous school, I was involved in a few student associations. I did a leadership program at my school, and there was another diversity advocate program. So I've always been involved in student leadership, and that's what they look to see. So I don't know if that helps my application a little bit too, that I had, like, this isn't my first foray into student leadership. So definitely get involved, even if you weren't involved, like if you're in graduate school now and you weren't involved in undergrad, try to get involved in SOTA. If you don't have a SOTA club, start one. Volunteering, anything you can do to like build up the leadership portion of your resume. And if you're a new grad, you do still have those 5 years. So like if you did graduate, any leadership, even if you didn't get involved in school, like any leadership opportunities you can do in your workplace that you can do to boost up your resume, I think that really helps. And then also the letter of recommendation. I don't know how each portion of the application is weighted, but my program director did give me an amazing, amazing recommendation. So I'm forever grateful to her for that too, because I'm pretty sure that had a lot to do with it as well.
Yeah. So it sounds like get involved, get out there, start doing something.
Yeah.
If it's not there,
doing something.
Make it.
And start like when I was in undergrad, yes, I was involved in like student associations, but when it came to like my coursework, I was go to class, leave, go home, or like go to class, leave, and go socialize. But I didn't really like build a rapport with my professors. And I think that also kind of hurt me when it was time to apply to grad school. Like I really didn't have anyone who could vouch for me because I really didn't have, I went to a big university where it's like 300 people in our lecture halls. So I didn't have the desire to like connect with people. But I think, yes, a lot of life is what you know, but it's also who you know too. So like reach out to your professors and your department heads and make sure they know you and just build that relationship with them as well, because it really comes in handy when you need a recommendation for something.
Yeah. I hear you on that one. And I was the exact same way. I just kind of did my work. I studied, I did my work, and that was kind of it. And I never really took advantage of the networking, the community, the connections that I had as a student. And so, yeah, that was the next thing I was going to say. So like first step is like get out there and do it. And second step is really pay attention to the people that you're meeting, the people that are mentoring you, the people that you are just coming in contact with, because there are so many amazing people out there. And even if when you meet them, like you might just say hi and like have a conversation and that's about it. But you never know when they might have another connection or they might have information or knowledge about something that you are interested in later on. And
Yeah,
I feel
sure.
like, right? I feel like the more that I've been going to conferences and that I've been connecting with people and other OTs on social media, the more that this point has really, really kind of hit home for me, where it's like, wow, like there are so many fantastic people out there, and I am just so inspired by what everybody's doing. And even if like maybe they're doing something that I can't be a part of or like don't have time to or whatever, or it's not even in my wheelhouse, but I will be able to connect them to somebody else later on and just kind of facilitate it that way. And those two pieces of advice that you said right there, I mean, that's spot on. That's so wise, and I'm so glad that you said that. All right, so I think we'll wrap it up, and I always end my episodes with one question, and I know it's a tough one, and I get yelled at sometimes because I ask it, and it's really hard. But if you had one word, what does occupational therapy mean to you?
Wow. Maybe possibilities?
Ooh.
Has anyone ever said that before?
I don't think so. I think we've had similar words, but I think we've had like opportunity before, but I don't think we've had possibilities. I like that.
Yeah. I think occupational therapy offers so many possibilities to make so many things possible, whether it's through adapting something or modifying something. It makes life possible for a lot of people, and living and just doing whatever you want to do.
Perfect. I absolutely love what everybody comes up with, because they're all so different, and yet it all describes the profession so well. And I think that just like that shows the diversity of the profession, and it shows the scope and just the all around influence that this profession has. And so I was going to ask if anybody wanted to like get in contact with you or had questions about anything that you've talked about. Are you okay maybe providing your email, or maybe we can link to it? Would you be okay with that?
I'll send you my email and you can post that, and then they can email me.
Awesome. Yeah, and we'll make sure that we include all the links to everything that we've been talking about so far, because we definitely discussed a lot of things in this episode.
Yeah, for sure.
So this has been so fun and so enlightening, because there are so many things that you've talked about that I have not been a part of, and hopefully will be a part of sometime in the future. And I hope that this really inspires other practitioners and other students to get involved and get out there and advocate for our profession, promote our profession, and just become a leader wherever you are.
Yes, I hope so too.
And so thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, before you go, I just wanted to say thanks for listening to today's episode. If you want to further the discussion, go to our website, otforlife.com, and join our Facebook group. If you like us, here are 3 easy ways to let us know. 1. Share our podcast with a friend, colleague, or anyone interested in occupational therapy. 2. Leave us a review on iTunes or anywhere this podcast is found. 3. Subscribe to us so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. Thanks again. We'll catch you next time, OT for Lifers.
Did you start? Wait. Did you start recording?
Oh, I've been recording the whole time. Don't worry.
Oh, okay.
But
it's actually going pretty good. Like, I'm super nervous. I talk super fast. I don't like being recorded. I hate the way my voice sounds, but...
Oh, man. I don't know. This will happen. I'll just, lose my train of thought, and I'll try to...
That happens to me all the time, too.
There was something else that you said, too. So, there were so many good things right there, and I was, trying to write it down, and then I was like, ah, dang it, didn't catch that one. I think those 2 pieces that have sorry. Oh, man. Well, that was fun.
I know. I've never been on a podcast before,
Yay.
But it wasn't that bad. Obviously, I was nervous. I was nervous about the whole thing, but I was, at the same time, comfortable. I'm still nervous, but it's I realized, it's not, I don't need to be nervous. I still am, but I shouldn't be because it's pretty laid back.